Among other things, the singer is expected to address the 2016 video of Combs attacking her.
Combs' federal trial. Combs' ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, she is one of Combs' many accusers, testifying as a central witness.
Is she ready?
Very ready and confident. Thank you.
The courtroom fell silent when she walked in. Cassie Ventura, pregnant, poised, and holding years of secrets, stepped into one of the most watched legal showdowns in music history. She didn't look at him, not once.
She walked in there, Rachel. She had on a brown dress, form-fitting, visibly pregnant, head held high, and did not make any eye contact with the defendant, with Sean Combs. He said that Sean Combs directed everything from what she had on to the lighting in the room to how she was supposed to interact with the person that she was with. And again, just to reiterate, what is a freak off?
Sean Diddy Combs, the man who once ruled hip-hop with champagne in hand and a billion-dollar swagger, sat pale and still. No entourage, no bravado, just a man who looked like he knew everything was about to change. Because it was. What Cassie was about to say, under oath, would tear through his empire like a wrecking ball piece by piece. This wasn't just a trial, it was a reckoning. And it started with one name, hers.
The freak off essentially was something that Cassie said she learned about through Sean Combs about a year into their relationship. He described it as voyeurism, wanting to watch with someone else. And she said that she did it because she was 22, 21, she was young, she didn't know any better, and that she wanted to please Sean Combs.
But what Cassie said next silenced the room. Cassie didn't need to speak loudly to command the room. Her presence did that on its own. Dressed in a simple brown dress that hugged her baby bump, she moved with quiet confidence, like someone who'd already made peace with the storm she was about to unleash. She took the stand, adjusted the mic, and sat tall. No glances toward Diddy, no hesitation. Meanwhile, Diddy looked like he hadn't slept in days. His suit was crisp, but his face said otherwise. Drawn, tense, like he was watching his own undoing in slow motion. What made it even more surreal was the history they shared. The lavish vacations, the red carpets, the interviews where he'd call her his muse.
Among other things, the singer is expected to address the 2016 video of Combs attacking her in a hotel when she was his girlfriend. Combs has pleaded not guilty. His attorneys argue the video is evidence of jealousy, not trafficking. And now for the first time, jurors are hearing what Cassie has to say about that and other aspects of their 10-year relationship.
At some point in time, she actually had said that she looked forward to the freak-offs. Why did Cassie express looking forward to these said freak-offs?
When the prosecution asked her, was there ever a time that you enjoyed the freak-offs? This is when Cassie got choked up and she said, I did, but only because I got to spend one-on-one time with Combs, and I really did love him.
And that is speaking to the psychological abuse.
But here, under the cold fluorescent lights of a federal courtroom, none of that mattered. Because when Cassie started speaking, it wasn't about love. It was about control, trauma, and years of silence that were finally cracking open. And then Cassie started talking about the freak-offs. Cassie didn't flinch when she said the word freak-offs.
In addition to the physical abuse that she potentially experienced.
Yeah, she's definitely laying out someone who was young, who was influenced by wanting to have this record career. She signed a 10-album deal with Bad Boy Entertainment, led by Sean Combs, and basically describes being enamored by Sean Combs, loving him, not knowing about certain things, and him sort of telling her, teaching her about that. And what you hear is someone that was young and she even said,
it sounded bizarre at first until she explained what it meant. According to her, these were twisted, voyeuristic setups that Diddy allegedly organized and insisted she take part in, beginning when she was just 21. Not once, not twice, but regularly. She said he controlled everything. What she wore, how she moved, even how she looked at the people involved.
You know, I was young, I was naive, I didn't know any better, but she's really telling the story of someone who thought she was going to be with someone in this music industry that was going to help her career, that cared about her, but quickly learned after the freak-offs that wasn't the case. And what I thought was also interesting is she said that after that first freak-off, she said she felt dirty. She didn't want to do it. And when she brought up the idea of having a conversation about the freak-offs in an email, which the jurors saw, she said she backpedaled in the email because Combs responded by saying, I know, you don't want to do it.
These weren't acts of intimacy, they were performances. And she wasn't the director. Cassie admitted something that hit everyone in the room hard. She pretended to enjoy it. Not because she wanted to, but because she loved him. Because she thought maybe, just maybe, giving in would bring her closer to him or keep him from snapping. Diddy's lawyers immediately jumped in, trying to block that part of the testimony.
And she said, oh no, well, it's not that. But that was the beginning. That was in 2010, where she brings up in an email that she wanted to have a conversation about this. And in her words, she didn't want to do it, but she felt like she had to do it.
But it was too late. The words were out, and the jury heard every single one. This wasn't a story about wild celebrity parties. It was about manipulation disguised as love. And Cassie made that painfully clear. But the psychological damage was just the beginning. The room shifted the moment Cassie started detailing the physical abuse.
Diane, prosecutors have wasted no time getting right into the alleged abuse that Cassie Ventura says she endured for years. Ventura telling jurors, quote, "He would bash my head, knock me over, drag me, kick me, stomp me in the head when I was down." She also got into the nature of those so-called freak-offs, saying that they involved hiring an escort and they performed under the direction of Combs, saying that they happened so frequently it eventually became a job for her to set them up. Ventura said she did not feel she had much of a choice but to participate, that she feared that Combs would retaliate or potentially blackmail her if she did not. And she's had at times to she's taken deep breaths, pausing her testimony, Combs appearing to be listening pretty passively with his hands in his lap at the defense table there.
Cassie's relationship with Diddy. Some of those details we've seen in prior lawsuits, but to hear her on the stand actually giving those details, reliving those moments herself. Also, you have to remember, she's very pregnant right now. So I'm gonna be curious to see how long she makes it on the stand, how she's emotionally able to weather all of these questions. And what's going to be interesting to watch is, you know, the defense from the very start in their opening statement said that she chose to be there. So I'm going to be curious to see how she responds to questions about.
No more side glances, no more scribbling on notepads. Everyone was locked in. She spoke slowly, like each word was something she'd rehearsed 100 times just to get through without breaking. She described being choked until her vision blurred, champagne bottles hurled at her head, furniture smashed in fits of rage, hotel rooms turned into war zones. One night in Miami, she said, he pushed her down a staircase, not metaphorically, literally. And it didn't happen in private. Staff witnessed it. At this point, even the jury couldn't hide their emotions. Some were visibly shaken. One woman wiped her face. Another stared straight down at her hands.
Was this her choice, or did she feel like she had to do all of these things?
I think what made Cassie emotional is having to describe the details of the freak-off and why she did it. When she talked about wanting to do it to please Sean Combs, that's when she broke down. Up until that point, she had just been answering the questions. She's a little soft-spoken at times, but that's when she got emotional. When she had to answer the question about if she enjoyed it, that's when she broke down, because she said, I enjoyed being with Sean Combs. And she says, I did it because it made him happy.
What did the expressions of the jurors look like?
The jurors are laser focused on what Cassie has to say. And that's to be expected, right? Because she is the person who will likely be on the stand, according to attorneys, for 2, maybe 3 days. She's the one that was in a relationship with Sean Combs for over 10 years. So she's got a lot to say, and she's just getting started.
Just how important is Cassie's testimony to the prosecution?
Then came the moment that shook the entire courtroom. Cassie's lawyers presented photos. Mirror selfies she took the mornings after the beatings. Bruised arms, swollen jaw, finger marks still red around her neck. Raw and unfiltered. That's when the courtroom gasped. You could feel it. This wasn't just a celebrity breakup story anymore. This was survival. And how did he keep her trapped? That part was even darker. Cassie wasn't just telling stories, she was bringing receipts. She revealed that Diddy allegedly had tracking software secretly installed on her phone. He knew where she was at all times. She said if she stayed out too long, he'd call. If she didn't answer, he'd show up. That kind of control didn't stop at physical presence. It extended to her personal life. Friends started disappearing. Collaborators backed away. She said he made sure she had no one else to turn to.
I think it really connects the dots, Rachel. When you look at that initial indictment and what's being alleged, she really is the person that has probably the most information about this idea that the prosecution says, which is creating a criminal enterprise for Sean Combs' sexual. Something else that the jurors saw today that sort of connects it back to this alleged criminal enterprise are 7 photos of people that were very close to Sean Combs, one even his former chief of staff. And these were all people that Cassie Ventura was able to name and explain the functions in terms of what they did: security, driver, chief of staff, someone that handled financials. So it's showing that she knew some of these people, again, because she was with him, around him for so long.
I think what the defense is going to say is that this wasn't blackmail. This was not coercion. This was consensual. We know that Cassie started out with Sean Combs as an early person, with someone who is trying to get her career started, and he was going to help her. That's what the defense is going to say, that she was starting out and wanted someone to support her. They did their first record deal together.
But the part that stunned the courtroom? She had proof. Cassie saved it all. Texts, emails, voicemails, even audio recordings. She'd known this day might come. She read aloud messages where Diddy threatened her, where he apologized, where he blamed alcohol. And then she shared messages from people close to him, people the public would instantly recognize. Celebrities. Big names. Some admitted they saw the abuse. Others begged her to leave, offering a place to stay. One simply wrote, "What I saw tonight wasn't right." As those messages appeared on the courtroom screens, Diddy turned ghost white. The mask was slipping. And for the first time, it wasn't just Cassie's voice accusing him. It was people from his own inner circle.
That's something I think the defense is going to focus on, and had it not been for Sean Combs, she wouldn't be where she is right now. The prosecution obviously is saying he was in control. It may have started out as a consensual. It may have started out with her being excited about seeing him, but ultimately he took control of that relationship. He took control of her career. This is their key witness, and she's on that stand trying to explain all of the charges that the prosecution wants to hit home with that jury.
No, there was a moment early on when Cassie mentioned Dallas Austin, who she called a friend, who's a producer. So I don't know if that's someone that we're going to hear from. We know that there were pictures shown to prospective jurors that are well-known celebrities, you know, Kanye West, Kid Cudi, Lauren London. We don't know, though, how they fit yet into why they were even asked, do you know these people? Are you familiar with them?
So the prosecution is questioning Cassie right now, still questioning her.
The defense hasn't even got a chance to, I mean, that might change based on the timing, but, you know, because she's such a key witness, it's likely that she will be on that stand the rest of the day. We learned that Cassie referred to him as Pop Pop, and Sean Combs would refer to her as CC. The prosecution says, what does CC stand for? They said.
And when those audio recordings played, Diddy couldn't hold it together. You could feel the tension stretch thinner with every second of those recordings. Then, one audio clip hit differently. Diddy's voice, loud, aggressive, slurring slightly, threatening Cassie in a way that made the entire room freeze. The judge allowed it to play in full. That's when it happened. Diddy stood up from his seat, eyes locked on Cassie, and shouted, "You know that's not how it happened." Gasps erupted. His lawyers scrambled to pull him back down. The judge's gavel slammed once, twice, before calling an emergency recess. It wasn't just a courtroom interruption, it was a total collapse. For a man who built an empire on composure, image, and power, this was a public unraveling. Reporters tweeted in real time, "Diddy just lost it? Never seen him like this before." You could tell. This wasn't the moment he broke. It was the moment everyone realized he already had. The judge gave him a final warning. One more outburst, and he'd be removed. Diddy sat back down, but something had changed. The control was gone. The legend, the untouchable mogul, was unraveling right in front of us.
She said Cassie Combs.
What kind of witness is Cassie coming off as to the jurors?
I think naturally when you look at her visually, people see that she's pregnant and looking like she's due any day now. So they might, have empathy, sympathy for her in that way, but we don't really know. We know that they've been instructed to be fair and impartial. As to what type of witness she's coming off as, she's describing someone that she was, someone she said that was trying to figure out who she was at that time and who she was allowed to be. Now you're looking at somebody that's almost 40 years old, totally different person, but even in describing what was going on at her at that time, taking drugs, trying to please Sean Combs, she's really just sort of laying out the case for her not having a lot of control. So I think that's the takeaway. This is someone who is making it very clear that at that particular time in her life, she says she did not have any control really over what she wore, what she did, who she was having. She's a different person now, but I think when she talks about those details and even reflecting on them for herself, as we saw today, she broke down on that court.
But it wasn't just his composure that was falling apart. By the time court resumed, the energy had shifted. Diddy's lawyers looked tense, like they were just trying to make it to the end of the day. His entourage, gone, slipped out during the chaos, leaving him to sit alone. Cassie, on the other hand, looked steady. Not victorious, just finished. Like she'd carried this weight long enough, and now it was finally someone else's to hold. Then came the final blow, texts from Diddy himself. Cassie's lawyers presented them like a closing argument you couldn't ignore. Messages that started with, "I'm sorry," and spiraled into desperation, promises to fix things, offers of money. One read, $2 million, clean break, no press. Another, "You know how I get when I drink." No denials, just confessions, thinly veiled in manipulation. The jury didn't say a word. They didn't need to. At that point, the evidence wasn't just painting a picture, it was burning down the house. The legend of Diddy, the parties, the power, the invincibility was gone. What was left wasn't a mogul. It was a man cornered by his own words, his own actions, and the woman who refused to stay silent. So what happens now? This wasn't just another courtroom drama splashed across the headlines. It was something deeper. This was the dismantling of a public persona so carefully built, so widely admired that most people never thought it could crack. But it did. And not because of a scandal or a rumor or a tabloid spin. It happened because Cassie stood up, told her story, and brought the receipts. Whether or not Diddy is found guilty in the eyes of the law, something irreversible already happened in the eyes of the public. The whispers became evidence. The image became a warning. The myth became a man. And now the world is forced to sit with that uncomfortable truth. As the courtroom doors closed behind her, Cassie didn't look back. She didn't have to, because she already said the one thing that will echo long after the verdict: "You know how I get when I drink." What do you think this means for Diddy's legacy and the music industry as a whole? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you want the real stories behind the headlines, hit that like button and subscribe. We're just getting started.